Ever spend more time fixing test scripts than building actual features? What if there were a smarter way? In this video, I'm going to show you how to use AI for functional and UI testing without writing a single line of complex test code. Just describe your test in plain English and let the AI do the testing and even the documentation. Stay till the end, you will learn a lot about how to leverage generative AI to perform any task on the web browser. Alright, let's build this framework together. First, I want to show you the simple web application we'll be testing today. It's an inventory management system built with Streamlit and specifically built for this demo purpose. It has a basic login page where we enter username and password to log into the site. You can create your own dummy credentials by clicking on the register button down below. Don't worry, the credential stays in your local machine itself. Right. Once you log into the app, you'll see the sales dashboard. I have filled in some dummy data here, right? It also has this inventory management form where you can add new entries to the database. Now open your favorite code editor and let's create a virtual environment for our project. Once we have the env activated, now create a new file, requirements.txt, and let's install all the dependent modules for our project. Okay, seems to be an error. So let's do it this way. Python-m pip install-r requirements.txt. It should work now. Okay, I'll speed up the installation process so that you don't have to stick around here. Okay, now that all the libraries are installed, yeah, we also need Playwright, and this is the command to install Playwright and Chromium. Once you have Chromium installed, let's start with the code. Okay, one more thing, we have to create the env file, and I'll paste few values over here. We need Google API key to connect to the LLM. For that, log into Google Cloud, select project, new project, and give it a meaningful name here. You can give any name and click create. Okay, once the project is created, go to Google AI Studio, get API keys, create API key, and select the project we have created earlier. Yeah, click that button, copy your API key and paste it over there in the first line. The second line, browser use logging, allows you to get verbose from the agent, and we are disabling telemetry by setting it to false. And if your test case needs logging into a web app, this is where you have to add your credentials. Now let's copy the test case over here. For ease of readability, I have pasted them in a text file, and later I will show you how to create them in a CSV file. If you see, I have created few test cases here. Example, dashboard access, updating the inventory. Yeah, this is the test scenario, and we are instructing the agent what to do when using the test execution. And this is the expected result, which we discussed already. Pause for a minute and try to understand the text file. This is the file our test needs. Whatever is written in the text file, I've converted it into columns, so it will be easy for our script to iterate over each test case and execute it. Don't worry, all the code we discussed in the video will be available in the description. Now let's copy our test site. This is the site which you saw earlier in the demo. We are not going to dive into how the site is built because our focus is on building the agent. Now let's activate the virtual environment. And start our dummy site. Let's start with config.py file. This file holds the core configuration of our project. I'll paste few lines here and I'll explain each one of them line by line. Here the input underscore CSV file points to your test case definitions, and output directory specifies where all the test results should be stored. And LLM model selects the model, AI model, which in this case we are using Google Gemini 2.5 Flash. And more importantly, the allowed domains acts as a security measure, restricting the AI agent to only interact with specified URLs here. Now let's create a new file and name it run_test.py. Now open the file and I'm going to paste some import statements and I'll go over each one of them. We're going to use voice module and the CSV module to create folders and read the CSV file because the agent runs certain events like accessing the navigation pages and filling on the forms, right? They run in asynchronous mode, so we need the async module. And the Pydantic, the base model and validate error model are from Pydantic for the data validation, and Chat Google allows us to interact with the Gemini LLM model. Using .env module, we'll import the environmental variables from the env file, and the agent, controller and browser session from the BrowserUse module allows us to interact with the Google Gemini model and the web browser. And we import datetime to create the folder structure with the timestamp. And from the config.py file we created, we are importing the input.csv file, output directory, the LLM model we defined there, and also the restricted domain names and the conversation subdirectory. Now, after that, we are loading the environmental variables from the env file. Now let's create Python classes using Pydantic to structure the AI's output. The test case class defines fields for a single test outcome, like the test name, test description, status of the test case, any observations from the agent. And test cases is a list of these test case objects we defined above. And we initialize the controller from BrowserUse with the output model equal to test cases as an input, telling it to validate the AI's response against this structure. Now let's create few utility functions for loading data and as well as managing the directories. Now I'm going to create a new function for loading the environment variables. This function fetches test username, test password from your .env file. These are used to substitute placeholders in your test description. Now let's create one more function to read the CSV file. This function reads your test scenarios and ensures that the two important columns like scenario name and task description columns are present. We're opening the CSV file and verifying whether the two important columns like scenario name and description are present. And if they're not present, it will print to the screen. If scenario name and task description are present, it will append them to the all_task list. And this code block is for the error handling. Now let's create one more function, set up output directories. This basically creates a unique sanitized directory for each test run and also for the individual artifacts. It takes base directory and task name as inputs. It checks if the base directory exists. If it doesn't, it creates a new one. And it also sanitizes the task name and creates directory for each task name under the base directory and returns the directory name. run single test, this is the core function of our framework where the automation happens. So this function receives all the necessary test details. It first sanitizes the task name for file creation compatibility. Then it replaces test username and test password placeholders in the raw task description with the actual values we obtained from environmental variables. Now let's add the main agent block here. Under the run single test function, we create an agent instance with the key parameters like the process task description, the LLM model, in this case Gemini, and the controller for output parsing, also the GIF path. The browser session restricts the agent from connecting to unauthorized domains. We are disabling the vision model here because we are passing the credentials, and also conversation directory for saving the conversations, and we are running the agent in asynchronous mode, storing the result in result variable. After agent.run completes, we receive the results and we validate this result against our test cases pydantic model. If it is valid, we extract the test cases, print its details including success status and any comments provided by the AI. And let's define one more function, save test results. This function handles saving our compiled test results. Here we are creating a output CSV file, taking each test case result and writing the output to the output CSV file in the path. Now let's define our main function. This main function orchestrates the entire process. It loads the credentials, generates a unique timestamped run ID for our output directories, also creates a conversation folder for the agent logs, reads the input CSV file, initializes our LLM model, and creates a browser session instance with the allowed domain list. And this loop iterates through each task loaded from our CSV file. And for each of these tasks, it creates an output directory and calls our run underscore single test function. And all the successful results are collected under test underscore results, and they are appended to the list. Finally, after all the tests are executed, the collected results are saved to test underscore results.csv file within the runs directory. The if underscore underscore name equal to main block ensures the main asynchronous function is run when the script is executed. Now let's run the function. Make sure to start your web application in the background. Looks like there is an issue. Let me figure that out. Okay, we missed to provide the GIF path and also the conversation path. Let's run it again. You see the browser session has started. Let me bring the browser open by agent to the side and also show you the test execution that is being run. So the agent is trying to execute the first scenario, and that is the successful login, where it connected to the given URL, trying to enter the credentials to login. If you see, there are placeholders all over the page. It connected to the dashboard. Since the test is completed, I started the second test as well. This is failed login scenario. Let's see what happens. The agent tried to log into the site with invalid credentials and it failed. Now it is trying to run the third scenario, that is successful logout. It successfully logged out. I think the window will close now. The expectation is that it redirects to the login page, and it did. Now I'll speed up the process so that you don't have to sit around and watching the screen, and I'll show you the test results at the end. The tests are completed. Now let's look at the test artifacts. Go to the latest run. Under conversations, each test has scenario files. This text file contains the agent thought process and its plan on how to execute the test. And the other important file is the test results file, which contains a scenario name, scenario description, success and comments column. Now let's look at the results for the first test case, successful login. And if I scroll to the right, the two important columns are the success and the comments. The success is a boolean column where it shows whether the test is successful or not. Comments column contains the agent observations on the test. Now let's look at the second test case. Is a login failure scenario. Here the agent deliberately enters invalid credentials and validates whether it is getting username and password in correct error or not. Similarly, you can review all the test cases. And the test run also generates GIF files. And this GIF file contains the agent steps. Let's look at the GIF file for the login scenario. Interesting, right? This GIF file contains a step-by-step action the agent has taken to complete the test scenario. Let's look at one more GIF file. This is for successful logout. Navigate it to the URL. And this is a wait time for it. It logged into the site. And it logged out immediately. And the expectation is that the logout button redirects to the login page again. If you found this video helpful and want to start automating your web UI test with AI, please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel for more tutorials on AI and automation. Thanks for watching.